If you had to pick one celebrity to describe your personality to a stranger, what celebrity would you pick?
Living or dead?
Yeah.
Dead.
Warning, the following podcast is a shit show, and the individuals you are about to meet are idiots. Their opinions, anecdotes, and advice contain zero nutritional value. This is the critical human condition and all of its strangeness. This is life, according to an idiot.
This is According to an Idiot, your favorite podcast where you listen to me. I don't feel like I'm a Kaylee.
Well, I only have ever known you as Kaylee, so I see you as Kaylee, I guess.
I told you I was almost named Harmony, right?
Thank God you weren't.
My older sister's name is Melody, which
Yeah.
is very nice and pretty. They wanted to go like a musical theme because my dad like plays guitar and bass and whatever. So they were thinking of Harmony.
So Melody, Harmony, and they're going to name your youngest sister Keyboard.
Right. What's the symbol at the beginning of when you're writing music?
Musical note?
The squiggly thing.
Yeah, the squiggle. It's just called a squiggle.
Yeah, so it'd be Melody,
Us pros call it squiggle.
Melody, Harmony, and Squiggle. I want my name to be ass, but in another language.
Just ass with an accent. So like ass.
Let's look up how to say ass in different languages right now. Cue the segment.
The segment is called Ask Me Anything.
Our weekly segment where we learn how to say ass in a different language every week.
So in Canadian, ass is said like ass is ass also.
Right.
That's your first lesson.
In
Wasn't that
Australia, it's ass.
Apparently it's the same in Tennessee. Yes.
Okay, so in Japanese, oshiri.
Oh, shitty.
Oshiri. Oshiri.
Oh, shitty. Every time I try to do a Japanese accent, it just sounds racist.
What language would you like to know?
Okay, Russian.
Жопа.
Shopa.
Jopa.
I want my name to be Jopa.
Come, children, it is dinner time.
Ooh.
Eat my shupa.
That actually sounds pretty if you don't know it means ass.
My beautiful daughter, Shopa. Melody, Harmony, and Jopa.
I would think it was a beautiful name.
Hey, Shopa.
Ah, that'd be such a good prank as a parent if you named your kid Shopa and then they decide to learn Russian and then they go visit Russia. Even worse, they become like a United Nations like translator or something, and all the Russians are laughing at her.
Mom, why am I ass?
Like, why did you do this to me, mother?
It really feels shitty.
So, Jeremy, do you watch any trash reality TV?
I swear to Lord, the artist, the Grammy-nominated artist. If you bring up reality TV, I'm gonna slit my wrists.
RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 4 has just started,
Yep.
and there's some controversy.
I'm sure it's very politically charged.
The show is very much hot garbage, but that's what I
Hot
gravitate towards when it comes to TV, is I
Yeah.
love just steaming garbage.
In layman terms, pretend that we have never seen this. Explain to me the drama.
Oh yeah, I made you watch it, didn't I?
Yeah.
So RuPaul's Drag Race, if you don't know what that is, it is
It's like
about
NASCAR.
Yeah,
it's like NASCAR.
it's
It comes
about-
on after NASCAR.
Right, but the twist is it's drag queens, but basically they corral a bunch of drag queens and then they compete in challenges every week, and every week two lip sync for their life and one gets eliminated. But the twist with All Stars is that the two top queens lip sync for the opportunity to send one queen home. But also just seems kind of like a shitty show to be on. I don't know, like the older seasons, it did seem like a family and like loving and everything. But I think now it's more of like, who can I backstab and can I be the villain and you know.
Well, I'm sure that they're getting notes from like network execs.
Oh,
being
yeah,
like,
sure.
hey, make it a little bit more cutthroat.
Right, I'm sure the producers are probably like trying to push that. Which is kind of annoying, but I mean, it's a drag show. Like, what? I don't know what I expected, but I
Right.
binge watched like 6 seasons in a row, and now I'm looped in. I have to keep watching it.
You got to keep on doing it, definitely.
I'm just happy Eureka isn't on it.
yeah,
I'm
we
gonna
all
get
know
some
what that
shade
means.
because fuck Eureka. She is so annoying. I can't stand Eureka.
We have 7 listeners, and I don't think any of them know who Eureka is.
So we have a viewer question.
Oh yeah, let's jump the shark from
jump the
this to
shark.
Christmas.
So Charlie sent in a question to us, And they would like to know, now that the worst time of the year musically is around the corner, what do you think is the best way to handle horrible, repetitive Christmas music?
Okay, well, that is a tough question. It really depends on just how you feel about the holidays. You know what I mean?
Right, well, they obviously do not
like it.
the music. The only Christmas song I can tolerate is Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Really? I hate that one.
Really?
Because it's too pop. Like, I hear it too much. It's too upbeat.
That's how I feel about all the other Christmas songs. It's like, it never changes. It's always the same, and it's always about the same stuff, about freaking snow and eggnog and fucking inside, and Santa's sexy for some reason. I don't...
Imagine this. You're driving home, it's snowy, but you're not in a bad mood. So imagine...
It's impossible. If it's snowing, I'm in a bad mood.
Pretend like you're not in a bad mood. And you're snowing.
I don't know what that's like.
You're on your way to the love of your life's house for a Christmas party. Think of that. And it's snowing like it did in your childhood when snow didn't suck as much. and Nat King Cole's Christmas song is on.
Oh.
Like, Merry Christmas. Like that kind of shit. Like, that's kind of nice. There's some lights on the street corners, and that's the best. That is peak Christmas music.
But I can't enjoy it because I hate the cold weather.
I mean, I agree with you. Like, I understand that is a huge obstacle to tackle.
If I could go somewhere that's warm and that also puts up lights, I would like Christmas so much more.
Would you like the music?
Probably not.
See, I won't listen to Christmas music like when I'm not in my car.
It's just like you always get people remaking the same Christmas songs every year. Every year somebody does it, and they try and make it all original.
Okay, that I get. I get that because I do hate
that's all
remix.
it is now. It's just like remixes all the time. Like if you get me Nat King Cole, I guess I can do that.
When I think of Christmas music, I think of like Bing Crosby and like the original stuff.
Right. Yeah.
To the dead era.
That I would say I can listen to and enjoy, but like modern like radio Christmas music. No.
Yeah, honestly, I mean that when
Eat
you
my
put it
ass,
that way.
Santa.
Eat my jopa.
So to answer the question, how do you avoid it? You can't.
How do you avoid it? Yeah,
you deal with it for a month, and then it's done, and it's New Year's, and people are going to the gym and stuff. Or you can move somewhere where they maybe don't celebrate Christmas. That would be a solution.
Like China.
I feel like the Middle East probably doesn't.
Yeah, but like Christmas is no longer like really a Christian thing. Let's be real. It's just like a month.
Right.
Christmas is a month. Maybe 2 with November.
Okay, but you only have 12 months. A 12th of your life every year is dedicated to Christmas music.
Okay, you know what then? Fine. Turn it off, Charlie. Just turn the music off.
Just turn it off.
Put on some Fall Out Boy.
My Chemical Romance. Welcome to the Black Parade. And that'll be our Christmas music.
Yep.
For the entire month of December.
Some Papa Roach.
You know, My Chemical Romance is almost like extraterrestrial to me because their music is so good.
It's almost like you're trying to segue into something. Huh? What is this about?
Jeremy.
Okay.
I was probed.
What?
I said a probing.
You said a probing? Oh, you know what that reminds me of? The thing we're supposed to be talking about right now. So guys, there is a slight reformatting of the show. We don't really need to talk about it in depth.
Basically, I don't know. We're just trying something different. If you like it, let us know. And if you hate it, also let us know. But be nice about it because we're
fragile.
We're fragile.
What we're doing is instead of tackling different issues, we are going to use our skills to tackle one big issue to really enlighten you guys on the subject.
Right.
And today, what's our subject today, Kaylee?
UFOs and abductions. That's what they sound like.
Yep.
The abductions.
That's actually what Bowser sounds like in Super Mario 64. I don't know if you played that.
I have. Wow.
Let's talk about UFOs.
Let's talk about UFOs.
Let's talk about UNOs.
Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about aliens.
Ooh, thank you.
Sharing their curiosity to know the unknown, their tension, their readiness for inconceivable adventure.
Is it human or inhuman? Earthly or unearthly?
Tell this to everybody wherever they are. Watch the sky. Everywhere. Keep looking.
Unbelievable? Fantastic?
But I tell you, it could happen.
UFO sightings. I think everybody knows about UFOs. It's a huge point of interest all across the world. The term itself, UFO, obviously stands for unidentified flying object. When it was used by like government officials back in like the 40s and 50s, they actually just called it a UFO. They would just go UFO.
Huh.
Yeah, that really bothered me.
I don't like that.
I know, it's like, what? But when you think about it, most...
It's like an oob.
Yeah.
Out of body
Yeah,
experience.
it is. It's just like that. The term UFO was first coined in 1953 by the United States Air Force.
Huh.
And it is used to describe an object observed in the sky that isn't readily identified. So this could literally be, you know, in Superman when everyone goes, look, it's a bird. No, it's a plane.
No, it's Superman.
For that split second, he is a UFO.
Ah!
So...
Spider-Man, you scare me.
What the fuck? Spider-Man, you're scaring me. Oh, I'm losing it. Okay.
Okay.
So, but they weren't always called UFOs. Some terms that predate the term UFO is flying saucer, flying disc, or my favorite, flying flapjack. Legit, someone would be like, hey, you see that flapjack over there? And everyone's like, what the fuck? You mean the saucer? Look, it's a bird. It's a flapjack. No, it's Superman. Oh, yeah. Despite the famous term being coined in 1953, UFO sightings don't just go back decades, they go back millennia.
Right.
The earliest known UFO sighting in recorded history occurred in 4th century China. But in some ancient Chinese text, they tell of a strange reoccurrence which occurred every 12 years for a span of time, where a so-called moon boat would come from the sky and hover over China.
Huh.
Every 12 years.
And this is like a mass amount of people saw this?
Yeah, it was just written about. Like, the masses knew, like, okay, it's been 12 years, and there's the moon boat. Cool. Not to be confused with moon shoes, which is the worst toy ever
Those
sold.
are fun.
You
could jump slightly higher than you could before.
I twisted my ankle so many times in my neighbor's moon boots. We never had them. My neighbor across the street did.
Moon boots.
Moon boots. And
Moon
then
boots.
Next to that was the sock and boppers. Sock and boppers, sock and boppers.
Yeah.
More fun than a pillow fight. And you just beat the shit out of each other. Like,
Right,
with
and
unwarranted
it like still
rage.
hurt really badly, and you still got concussions.
Right. It still destroyed your face. Yeah.
Right.
Bloody noses. Anyways, others cite the first UFO sighting to be from the book of Ezekiel, in which a curious vessel dropped from the sky and landed in some place that is now modern Kuwait.
Wait.
But wait, there's more. If you call now, you'll also get a third sock and bopper to beat the shit out of your little brother with. A wave of sightings was also recorded near Rome in 218 BC. It was depicted in what's called I'm going to try to pronounce this, Ab Urb Condita Libri, which sounds like I'm saying something backwards. Ab Urb,
Okay, sorry, quick deviation.
please.
Did you see that news article about the kid named ABCDE, but it was pronounced Ab City?
Ab City. Hell yeah, dude. Ab
Apparently
City.
it's like a common name.
No, what?
Not like common, but like
Ab City?
she's not the first one to do
Ab
it.
City. Welcome to Ab City. That sounds like a workout
I
video.
know, it's
I'm Tyler Monroe. Welcome to Ab City.
Ab City.
Get ready to burn some fat and find yourself.
Also, she missed the opportunity of doing the fun part of the alphabet.
Elemento.
Yeah.
Elemento. Anyways, where the fuck was I?
Sorry.
There is a very, very old, essentially a manuscript that is the history of Rome from back in the day, and it's
Right.
called Ab Urb Condita Libri. God, I don't even know if I said that right. It's by a Roman historian named Titus Livius, and in the book he describes, quote, an appearance of ships which had shone forth from the sky. This had occurred 4 years prior in 214 BC. I don't understand how BCs work.
Before
Anyways,
Christ.
And then so in 900 CE, which is Common Era, I learned, a burning wheel was spotted over Japan. At the same time, a foreign ship descended onto the shoreline of Haratono. I'm the most un-Japanese sounding person ever, excuse me.
Let me see it.
It's the last bullet point at the top.
Haratono.
A foreign ship descended onto the shoreline of Haratono, described as follows. The outer shell was made of iron, and glass and strange letters were seen inside the craft. To me, that sounds like a specifically like a spaceship.
Right.
We had talked about this off the air, but I think a lot of times when you hear about these sightings, especially the really old ones, I think a lot of times it can be written off as some sort of atmospheric anomaly, some sort of weird lights or whatever, or even just a comet. But that specifically really interested me, the whole like idea of glass and iron and stuff and weird lettering, spooky. While a vast majority of UFO sightings are eventually identified, like, oh, no, it was a plane, that was a weather anomaly, etc., there still is a percentage that remains unsolved, and it's roughly 5% of all sightings, which is a very small amount. But there also are a lot of sightings. So in the olden days, we always think of them being called flying saucers, which I always hated.
Right. Yeah.
What the fuck is a saucer? I mean, I know what a saucer is.
It's like what you put your drinks on.
Exactly. It's what you put like little teacups on. There was a specific sighting that's kind of like in what I believe to be like the watershed American UFO.
Okay.
So it's commonly referred to as like the Kenneth Arnold sighting. June 24th, 1947. You feel me? Civilian pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 foreign aircrafts over Mount Rainier, which is in Washington State. It's like southwest of Seattle. Just some background on him so you don't think he's a crackpot. Kenneth Arnold was regarded as a very experienced and skilled pilot, having flown a combined 9,000 hours, which when you do the math, that's 375 days.
He knew his flying objects.
375. This motherfucker spent over a year in the sky. So most of those flight hours were spent devoted to search and rescue efforts. And so on that day when he was flying, he got a call for a $5,000 reward to find a crashed marine transport plane that was near Mount Rainier. So he diverts his path, goes towards Mount Rainier, and he's looking around for this plane. He can't find it, but then all of a sudden he sees this series of really bright flashing lights. So he follows the direction in which he saw these lights headed. It leads him back to the mountain, and he sees 9 of these really bizarre-shaped aircraft flying at incredibly high speeds. He first thinks they're jets, and so he starts to look for the tails, but there's no tails on these, which back in the day, like, no aircraft didn't have tails.
Right.
So he's like, what the hell is going on? So on top of the mountain, there's what's called the snowfield. It's just where the snow forms on top of the mountain.
Right.
So against the white of the snowfield, he can see the silhouettes, the outlines of the spacecraft, and he sees that they're unnaturally flat, like so flat that he can't imagine a person fitting inside of it. And it's like crescent shape, and it's doing a bunch of crazy dips, and they're all moving in like a fairly synchronized order.
Right.
And so what he does is he times them. He can see them moving, and he does some sort of pilot math. I don't know how he does it. But he figures out that they're going at an estimated speed of approximately 1,200 miles per hour, which is 3 times faster than any known aircraft in 1947. So Arnold,
he has to be like shitting his pants.
He's probably just like, what the hell? But so I guess what his first thought is like, well, maybe this is like some sort of secret government stuff that they're not, that I don't know about. And so he goes back to the little local airport where he flies out of whenever he flies. And no one really believes him. They're very doubtful. They're like, that's impossible. So no, you're wrong. The sightings spread pretty quick and they made headlines. Arnold was being interviewed in publications such as the Chicago Times and the Saturday Evening Post. Eventually, the government started to investigate the sightings. They quickly learned that there were 16 other UFO sightings that had taken place in the same area at the exact same time as Arnold.
Damn.
So they're like, okay, this is a thing now. So Arnold's he's getting a lot of buzz in general. But he's also getting a lot of backlash. People are just like doubting him, being like, this guy's a crackpot, don't listen to him.
Right.
But then he starts getting letters from ex-military pilots. Essentially what they say in their letters is like, hey, back in the war, we were all briefed before heading into combat for some reason that we might see aircrafts that fit the design and model that you described.
What?
He's like, yeah, we weren't allowed to tell anybody that. Yeah.
That's
like,
so freaky. The government is just weird in general to me.
Yeah. And so they're like, you're not going crazy, because this was definitely a thing. Some of what I think these men were describing were Foo Fighters. That's right. Dave Grohl's,
I was gonna say.
Dave Grohl's in this episode.
Where I say I'm not like the others. What am I saying? I'm not like the others.
Well, this is a terrible. we sound like birds. So the term Foo Fighter was used by Allied aircraft pilots in World War II to describe various UFOs that had been seen in the skies over both European and Pacific theaters of war. Typically orbs of light that didn't necessarily have much of a shape. Pilots insisted that these things would follow them during combat. So the first sighting occurred in November 1944 by a fighter pilot over Western Europe. So how did it all start? Well, first of all, the term was coined during World War II by a radar operator in the 415th Night Fighter Squadron. His name was Donald J. Myers. So he borrowed the term from this comic strip that was popular at the time called Smokey Stover.
Gross.
Yeah, so it was a comic strip about a firefighter. And the guy's catchphrase was, "Where there's foo, there's fire." And I don't know what foo means. And like I tried to research it, and it literally means nothing. It's like a placeholder word.
Oh.
So it pisses me off. I tried so hard to understand what the fuck foo means, and everyone's like, it's a nonsense word. So November 27th, 1944, in a mission debriefing, the unit's intelligence officer stated that Myers and another squad member had sighted a red ball of fire that appeared to chase them through a variety of high-speed maneuvers. Myers, agitated by the unexplainable occurrence, reportedly had a copy of the comic strip in his back pocket. He takes out the comic strip, slams it on the intelligence officer's desk, and he says, quote, "It was another one of those fucking Foo Fighters."
Oh, God.
He's like, what? And so from then on out, they would call them fucking Foo Fighters. Literally, like, that's what they would call them. Is fucking, do the Kaylee voice. Fucking.
The frackin' Foo Fighters.
Fucking Foo Fighters. Until a journalist reporting on the story had to clean it up to just Foo Fighters. Because, back then you couldn't say fuck.
Frackin'.
Now, can you imagine if we were talking about aliens, seeing an alien ship, and I just smacked down a copy of Beetle Bailey, just a comic strip of the Family Circus, Calvin and Hobbes, whatever. And I go, it's the fucking Foo Fighters. And I just leave the room. You'd be like, what's the matter with them? But regardless, I'm going to call them that. Thanks, man. Thanks. Both sides saw these. Japanese pilots, Nazi pilots, they all had experiences being tracked by these weird little glowing ships.
Can you imagine? Like, I'm just picturing I'm an alien, right?
You are?
And I stumble upon this planet with these people who are dumber than I am. So, I'm going to fuck around with them. I'm going to chase them around with my little saucer and freak them out a little bit, but not actually do anything to them that's harmful or good even. I'm just going to like, biz, guys. Here I am.
Watch
and then
them
I'm gonna,
duke it out.
Yeah, and then I'm going to bail.
Yep, just really freak them out. I would so do that.
Yeah, like that's totally something, like a chaotic neutral alien.
It really is chaotic neutral, yeah.
But I just thought, what if that's a strategy of theirs? So if we ever actually do come in contact with them, or like at some point when they decide they want to, I don't know, bang or whatever, we're like familiar with them. So it's not such a foreign concept and we're not so scared.
Right.
Because like really we've had centuries or generations of
little minute experiences.
Right. These little experiences that everybody's aware of. So when it does actually happen, it's like, oh,
that's
like
true.
This is kind of like I've expected this to happen because of all these little nuggets of information I've gotten over the years.
That's an idea. Yeah, because they're like dipping their toes in the water. So we're not. It's not a total culture shock when they show up.
Exactly.
Like if tomorrow the mothership landed in like Central Park. If the mothership landed tomorrow in Central Park, we would be like, oh, I knew it. Which is way different. It'd be
like, okay, I expected this because people have been reporting alien sightings for years.
Right. It wouldn't be a totally foreign concept to us. They were typically described as large glowing orbs, ranging anywhere from like red, white, orange, what have you, that would appear out of nowhere, stalk aircrafts, and mimic the slightest movements. So for a long time, people were saying like, oh, this is Nazi technology. The Nazis are so ahead of the curve. They made these little missile-guided drone-type things that have a no crash. Like, oh, they're just trying to fuck with us. And then the Nazis are like, we're seeing them too. So I don't know what you're talking about. Pilots claimed it felt as if the Foo Fighters were toying with them, following them for lengths of time before making wild turns and disappearing into the night. Despite all this, the pilots all agreed that they never felt that the Foo Fighters were hostile. They did note that they could never outmaneuver them. The Foo Fighters would be right on their tail, and in some cases going like at insane speeds that they couldn't catch up with. Interesting note attached to this, around that time during the war, Nazi engineers and like scientists were actually developing saucer-shaped planes. They had this one where it was essentially one metal saucer, like the wings were one circle, and the fuselage went in the middle of that circle.
Interesting.
And so it could actually fly. It couldn't take off, but if you launched it from a prop plane, if you launched it like a Beyblade into the sky, it could fly on its own. So it looked like a saucer.
You have to get somebody that's really good at shock put, and they take it and they like spin around a few times and let it go.
They got 5 guys to throw it like a frisbee into the air, and it took off. It's
the new ultimate frisbee craze.
So I think it's worthy of noting real quick that the government was really obsessed with UFOs for a bit because they knew that something was up. They knew
they're
shit
like
was
a
happening.
Concerned housewife.
Oh yeah, they want mother to be good. I don't know what I'm saying.
Ew.
Anyways, yeah.
I know my husband's cheating. I have to find out with who and how.
It's an alien.
How do I please him the way she pleases him?
There was a small top secret investigative operation conducted by the Air Force to look into unidentified UFOs. Looking into UFOs from 1952 to 1969. This was originally, it started as what was called Project Sign. Then it was moved to Project Grudge, and it was finally known and most famously known as Project Blue Book. There's a new show coming out on History Channel. It looks really good, called Project Blue Book, and it looks really, really fucking interesting.
Huh.
I'm sure it's dramatized to shit, but still.
I
You know who's in it is Littlefinger from Game of Thrones.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
he plays like the main detective.
Wow.
Yeah, super interesting looking show. Anyways,
Cool.
so check that out. But there are, I know of at least 10 sightings that Project Blue Book has cited as being actually unexplainable. That they designated as actual threats. And that would be perfect if I had taken the time to write all those down. I didn't. But what I found weird about it, I saw a map of those specific 10. I'm sure there was more, but these specific 10, they were all over the country. Like they weren't localized anywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Because this was done through the United States Air Force. Okay. It was all over the country. So it was. I thought that was really interesting. There wasn't one localized area. So that's pretty much all I got for you in the realm of strictly UFO sightings. But what I'm interested in is what happens when you get taken by a UFO. Oh, what's up with that? Huh?
So alien abductions, when you get that little finger in your butthole, it's not your partner doing it, it's an alien.
They could turn into a partner. Right. You don't know that.
Yeah, it's true.
Love works in mysterious ways.
So the first major alien abduction encounter, arguably the most famous, you might have heard of it, it happened in 1961, and it's with Betty and Barney Hill. Have you heard of this?
I have heard of this. What is this? Is this with the gray ones?
Yes. Yeah, they're called Greys.
Greys.
The aliens, they're that's their like nickname, I guess. Yeah. Essentially, the story of Betty and Barney Hill is that they decided to take a spontaneous vacation, and they were driving through New Hampshire, and they stopped at a diner and got some coffee. They were getting a little tired, but decided just to keep on trucking along anyway. So they start driving again, and they notice this thing that's shining in the sky. And it seems to be following their car. Barney, I should note, he's a very intelligent man. He had an IQ reportedly of 140.
Oh, God damn.
Yeah, and he assumed it was like a satellite that kind of got out of orbit and, some variation of that. And he was trying to calm his wife down. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Just keep going. Just don't pay attention. Ignore it.
No biggie. Don't worry about it.
So they keep driving, and they notice it's zigzagging all around the sky, and it's very persistently following them. Well, eventually they get so curious, so they stop the car at like a picnic spot, and they have binoculars on them. So Barney uses the binoculars to take a look at it. At this point, they said it was like 100 feet above them, or it was very, very close to them.
That's scary.
And he takes a look, and he describes it as a bunch of tall, gray people running around through these like windows, but they appear to be wearing uniforms similar to Nazis. And he got very scared, and he went back in his car to grab his gun. But when he was looking up at the UFO and through the binoculars, he couldn't get his hand to point up to the UFO. He just couldn't do it.
Like something was preventing him? Or
Right.
he's-
Like something was preventing him from pointing his gun to the UFO. And he recalls thinking to himself, like, oh shit, they're going to catch us. You know, some
God.
variation of that.
Yeah.
So they try and get away, but they start hearing this buzzing sound, and then there's nothing, no memory. And the next thing they remember is waking up. It's 2 hours later, and they're about 35 miles away from where they originally saw this saucer, and Betty's dress is ripped, and Barney's shoes are all scuffed up. So this experience was fairly traumatic for them. Betty started having a lot of disturbing dreams, and Barney started having, he started developing a lot of ulcers and anxiety. And so a few years later in 1964, they finally decided to go see a psychiatrist about it, and they went under hypnosis to try, and it was called like reverse hypnosis, recollection hypnosis or something like that, where they tried to recall their memories, essentially, like what happened, where they were missing.
Is that where like they kind of put you in like a sedated state with hypnosis and then talk to you and you like subconsciously answer?
Right. You like subconsciously are able to find the memories that you're not able to find.
Like the repressed memories.
Right. The repressed memories that you're not able to find when you're fully conscious because your brain's preventing it, or there's some block, or, you know, something like that. So when they go through this hypnotic state, they're able to start recalling all of these events that happen. And Betty's able to recall that this saucer was about the size of a house, you know, very thin, shiny. The people were very tall, very skinny, gray, had very like round black eyes. This is like where the original alien stereotype,
big head,
like,
big eyes, little nose and mouth
came from, because this is the first like abduction encounter somebody had. Barney and Betty had kind of different experiences. I mean, the same general story, but Barney was more, they were kind of scary. He compared them to Nazis as very like stern and kind of scary looking.
What year was this again?
This is 1964. They recalled the memories. This happened in 1961.
I wonder if Barney was a veteran from World War II.
Might have been.
Because maybe that's why he was so afraid of them, because...
Right. He keeps making the connection.
Yeah, with the Nazis.
Right. But Betty had a more pleasant experience. She started recalling instances where she was like having conversations with them and joking with them.
Oh, wow.
And Barney had dentures, and they found that his teeth popped out, and they thought it was very funny that his teeth would pop out.
Poor Barney.
Yeah.
God
So
damn it.
Betty was much more of like they were funny, and you know they were talking, having a good time.
Meanwhile, Barney's getting roasted.
I know
by
he's
these
getting
guys.
roasty as Hitler alien.
Yeah.
But they both recalled that they were examined. They had the like shiny table,
Like an
like
operating...
examination table with
Yeah.
the lights and everything. They both recall being examined by them, where they would take like nail clippings and skin shavings and hair strands.
That's very fetishy.
Yeah, a lot of like fluids and stuff. And Betty said that she got some sort of pregnancy test where they stuck a long needle into her stomach that she thought was some kind of pregnancy test, but I think that's just fucking weird. I don't know how
Barney, you are not the father.
Yeah. But this experience was so traumatic for them that they decided to report it to the Air Force. And it was actually reported in the Project Blue Book, and the Air Force investigated it.
Mm-hmm.
Betty originally did it because she was scared of radiation that she might have gotten from the spacecraft.
Okay, yeah.
But the story became very mainstream after the government started looking into it, and they were talking to a few people. And after that, it's where you start seeing a lot of books coming out about paranormal instances. And then like in the 90s, you start getting a lot of television shows like X-Files and...
Oh, so you're saying this is like what inspired that stuff?
Right. This story kind of inspired, and it kind of like tumbled into this big fascination.
Pop culture.
Right, pop culture fascination. And because of that, there was also quite a few studies that psychologists did to kind of try and understand why so many other people started coming forward, or, you know, other people started having instances that were very similar to the Hills. One study found that there were 5 traits that all of these people who had alien abduction encounters had in common. They either regularly experienced sleep paralysis and hallucinations. They had a tendency to recall false memories. They had high levels of absorption. And what they mean by that is like fantasy proneness. So like really out of this world experiences or thoughts or, like they're very like imaginative
big
and creative.
imagination.
They had new age beliefs. So like the tendency to accept unusual or non-mainstream ideas.
Oh, so like to believe that it was aliens.
Right, exactly. Or like tarot cards and ghosts and like
so
paranormal.
more
like,
fringe, go towards like the fringe
right,
topics.
Right, exactly. Or they had familiarity with the cultural narrative of like the green, slender, big eyes, the flying saucer.
So they had expectations that could
Right.
have influenced their experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they found that these 5 traits heavily influenced the type of people who were reporting these kind of instances, which makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Because they, majority, I don't know if there are any that can't be explained, but as far as I know, almost all of these can be explained from like a sleep paralysis or hallucination or like some sort of false memory. Because like a big treatment back then, the psychologist was hypnosis. Like that was the thing that you did for that kind of thing.
Right.
But depending on the person who's performing it, they can ask very leading questions and can get you to believe certain things that happened that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. And if you're more prone to the false memories, maybe you kind of make...
Like the power of suggestion.
So, right. So if like somebody was in hypnosis and I'm like, well, did you see anybody there with you?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's like, yes.
Do you believe they were aliens? Yeah. That's the ticket.
right.
They're aliens.
Yeah. Did they hurt you? You know, just like
you
stuff
bet
like
they
that.
Did. You're right. Yeah.
And versus just like, what was there?
Yeah. Just
You
like,
know.
tell me what you saw. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Somebody's kind of leading you in that direction. You're more likely to kind of make these memories of what may have happened, and then you
Yeah.
convince yourself of its reality. And the same thing with like sleep paralysis is a lot of these encounters where people in bed, they were sleeping in bed or they were in their room, and then all of a sudden there's this bright light, or there's these aliens standing around
Right.
their bed, or they see them like running around their house, or
that's true, because a lot of close encounters I've heard of is people like, oh, they abducted me from my bed.
yes.
And then I woke up from, wow, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them. I went on Reddit too. There's like a whole subreddit of people who talk about their abductions.
Oh, really?
And most of them they were sleeping and then they woke up and they like saw an alien and the alien saw them and it ran away, or it was doing something to them and then they woke up and saw it and it disappeared, or
Oh, so a dream.
yeah, so like stuff like that, or
Right.
they woke up and saw it and then they black out and then the next thing they remember is they're like in their kitchen or somewhere they
Yeah.
weren't before that
Right,
happened, you know.
right.
And a lot of that can be explained from sleep paralysis too, because like when you it's basically when you are still dreaming but you're awake. So I get sleep paralysis episodes where I see people that aren't there, particularly little children, which is very scary.
No, thank you. Right.
But a lot of people see aliens too.
Yeah.
And that kind of plays into the cultural like narrative of it too. Like if you are having movies or cartoons, or you have all these like people talking about it, your brain might go back to that perception and maybe
Right.
project it into
Exactly.
your dream.
You have like source material to work with.
right,
what I mean?
exactly.
Like if I go into a haunted house, a house that I'm told is haunted,
Mm-hmm.
I already know from movies and TV shows what I believe a ghost looks like. What I think I might see if I were to see a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
So if I think I see something, I'm going to think I see like a Victorian age woman in a
Right,
dress, or a little
exactly.
kid all pale and scary. Like I have an idea of what my mind could trick myself into seeing.
So that's what most like science people say is kind of like the cause of these now. They're not as like reliable. There are like a few stories that are kind of creepy to hear about. There was one I read where there were 4 guys who were camping and they decide they want to go fishing or, go by the lake or whatever. And they see this thing flashing in the sky and they, try and take a look at it or whatever, and they hear this buzzing and then it's just black. There's nothing. And they wake up hours later. It's like dark at this point. They had made a fire just beforehand that they had planned to go back to. And by then it was completely burnt out. It was dead. And they went through hypnosis as well, where they, had all these memories, but all the stories aligned up with each other, which is the very weird thing.
You could go the skeptic route. You can go the believer route where you're like, oh, well, you know what? If we're all experiencing similar things, it must be real. Or the skeptic route of, well, if there's only one kind of account from people to draw from, like you said with the suggestion thing, of course every account is going to be similar because that's what you're basing it off.
Right. And I feel like there has to be some sort of like self-doubt. Like, did this actually happen? Well, all these other people experience this thing. So like, yeah, my experience is like that too.
Right. But also, like, have you ever had just like a really, really realistic dream that you wake up and you go like, okay, that was like, you have to tell yourself that was a dream.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck, that was real.
Yeah, I
It's
get
kinda like
those
that.
all the time, yeah. I did find some statistics that I thought were interesting. 77% of Americans believe that Earth was visited by aliens at some point. I was like, I don't know. I don't know why
That's a
like
pretty huge...
most people.
Considering that roughly
so weird to
5%
me.
of UFOs are considered actually unidentifiable.
Right.
Those numbers
And
don't
most
really match
abductions are explained by sleep paralysis or
hallucination or false
memories.
false memory.
Right. So I thought that was really
It's wild. I mean,
interesting. So like, what do you think? Do you think Earth has been visited by aliens?
personally, yeah, I think so.
I do too, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's like what we're talking about. Like, there's that ancient astronaut theory where an alien lands on Earth and says, "Hey, everybody, just thought I'd help you out a little bit. This is how you make a wheel. Okay, I'll see. By the way, this is fire. Here you go."
There's so many interesting alien theories. I actually have a few
Hey, go ahead.
that I was going to talk about in a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought that statistic was really interesting. And then also 30% of people believe, or Americans believe, that the government covered up alien evidence.
Totally.
I'd believe it.
If there was,
Fuck the government.
if there was, I mean, just reading about all the shit about like Project Blue Book and stuff.
Right.
The reason they were researching it was so that they could make sure that they could not necessarily hide it, but keep it controlled.
But yeah, so since 9/11, there haven't really been as much like pop culture interest in aliens. It was more of like, I think, a whimsical, fun thing to think about. And then
Yeah.
after 9/11, it just
Shit got
the
real.
kind of mood changed. If you find the right communities, there are still people that are very gung-ho about aliens.
Oh, it's it's
It's
still
like a huge thing. People are trying to debate that like internet and social media has killed aliens because it used to be like so big and popular
Right.
and everyone like loved talking about it.
I bet it's made
but-
it stronger.
Right, and that's the thing is they think it's mainly just made it an echo chamber.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not so widely talked about, but
Right,
the people
yeah.
that do talk about it, it's
Are
like
talking a lot about
are
it.
talking a lot about it, and they
On
get
those
so much
forums.
like information and like reassurance from other people who believe the same thing. That's just like this
Yeah.
perpetual
Yeah.
intense belief in aliens.
Here's what I think. Going back to what you're talking about, like government cover up. Almost everyone can agree that there's got to be aliens out there. There's got to be life in the universe. Mm-hmm. At what point did it become silly for someone to say like, "I think there's UFOs. I think I saw a UFO." Because when you think about it, if so many people agree that Earth was visited at some point, 77% of Americans agree that Earth was visited at some point or another by aliens. Why is it so commonly laughed at and thought of as insane?
Because, I mean, what do you do with that information after that? If it is true, then your entire, the whole world is a lie.
Especially right now, like the world is on fire. In some cases, literally.
Yeah.
But it's like a whole big ball of hate. But the one thing that would bring us together, the only thing that's going to bring us together
Right,
is aliens.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, we really are like brothers and sisters.
I'm ready for the alien millennia to start. That'd
Well,
be
did you
fucking cool.
hear about that? Okay, so two things that I should have written down so I have more information on it. But there was, I want to say in either somewhere between 2014 and 2016, the New York Times released a thing from the Pentagon about how they saw a UFO. Cannot identify it. It was a spacecraft. They just don't know what it is. There was footage of it from a fighter jet during
Oh.
practice. They're like, we don't know what this is. It's going way too fast. It's not the shape of any kind of thing that we're used to seeing. It was just in the middle of some other conflict, so it got totally like disregarded.
Right.
And also there was that thing recently with that asteroid that was entering our orbit. There
right. The big, long, turd-looking.
turd, yeah. It was like a rock. And the thing was, the way that it was moving, it had to have been like jet propelled.
Right.
Yeah, it would slow down, then speed up, then change course. And they're like, yeah, who knows what the hell that is?
Right.
And it makes sense that if you were to covertly enter like an intelligent planet, you'd want to be camouflaged. Why not be like a fucking, asteroid? That's kind of smart.
Yeah. I have some theories I don't have these theories, but they are theories of why we haven't found aliens yet. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8. Just to briefly talk about. Very briefly. So there's the rare earth theory, which basically means that we're unique and we're the only complex life. And we're just very special. We're special snowflakes. Another theory, which is called the bottleneck theory, is that there were aliens, but they didn't survive. Much like our Earth now with climate change, we're very quickly going to a dead Earth.
Yeah.
And maybe these other aliens weren't able to overcome the troubles of their planet, or they weren't able to leave or stabilize their habitat, so they just died.
Remember the that one
Like
Spook,
Mars.
the Spook Squad I did, where the Phantoms of Mars.
Right. The Great Filter, which basically means that Earth was subjected to a great filter. So we missed basically a lot of things that would have killed us, like stars dying and like black holes and just different like geological upheavals. It's like supernova blasts or gamma rays, radiation, but it just like missed us by
So,
chance.
Right place, right time.
Right. The Great Silence. Basically, we're not worth it. We're just too stupid, and they don't care about us. And they're just like, meh.
To me, that one
That-
makes
that
a lot of
one's-
sense.
yeah.
It's almost bleak in my opinion. It's like insulting.
Early birds, which basically means that we're just the first to do it.
That's cool.
In comparison to the timeline of the universe, the Earth is actually pretty early. The last star will burn out in 100 trillion years from now, and 92% of planets are yet to be born. So we're the first, but not the last.
Huh.
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, or we'll just die first. We're gonna be the
Right.
first bones they find.
Yeah, that's kind of cool too, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
it's
and if there's like
not-
if
That's
there's like
cool.
reincarnation, then we get to be the ones to discover our old bones.
That's trippy.
Isn't that weird?
We found ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet. So not life as we know it. So basically, we had it all wrong. The extraterrestrials are not biological at all, and they're machines. We shouldn't be looking for solar harvesting beings. We should be looking for non-carbon-based structures and not listening to radio signals.
I think we talked about this in the last episode. Yeah, we did. About putting our consciousness into machines.
Yeah.
And then existing. It's like, could be like that.
Right, it
Maybe
could
that's
be- it
just
could
the
be
next
like
step
that.
in
Right.
is to
So
ditch
we're
the biological
looking
bodies.
We're looking for biological signs when we shouldn't be at all, and they're just like machine robots.
Yeah, it's not terrestrial.
And then there's another one. This one is basically a long road ahead of us. It's basically just saying that we barely scratched the surface of radio, and there's so many more wavelengths to scan, and we haven't scanned them all, so we shouldn't lose hope that there aren't any signals from aliens because we can't scan them all.
Oh, so we just
So they
haven't-
might exist, and we just can't access it yet.
It just hasn't reached us yet.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many wavelengths.
Because right now, there's that whole thing about radio waves and TV waves or whatever, where like, I remember when I was a kid, they were talking about like, oh, right now, the last broadcast of I Love Lucy has just passed by Pluto or something, or just there's something like that, where it's like, okay, so that means right now, some far off alien overlord is getting like the howdy doody comedy hour.
Can you
Some
imagine if
1930s
it's
like,
like
hey kids.
vice versa, and some random Joe Schmo in the middle of Kansas randomly picks up on a radio television show?
Ugh.
Yeah,
That's
isn't that
even
weird?
weirder, yeah. Like they're just like us.
And then the last one is basically that they're just too far away. There is intelligent life, but we're not able to look that far away yet, and so we don't know they're there. But maybe we will eventually.
That's very, very interesting.
Yeah. Are we still doing good vibrations? Is that still a thing?
If you want to.
Do you have any good vibes to give out?
Well, it's the holidays. I want to give good vibes out to all my friends and family.
Yeah. So here's our news segment where we put just some happiness into the world.
Yeah.
Good vibrations. My good vibrations are gonna go to Christmas lights, and that's so nice, and they just make everything so cozy and like warm and happy, and I'm happy that they exist.
But you know what? I'm going to double down on that and say, in honor of Charlie, I'm really thankful for Christmas lights and Christmas music. Gets
Ugh.
me in a good mood. I'm loving that Bing Crosby. I could Bing my Crosby all day.
Ugh.
Maybe smack some Nat King Cole up my ass.
That's disgusting.
How about that?
All right. What did we talk about today, Jeremy?
Goddamn aliens is what we talked about.
We talked about aliens. Protect your butts.
You know, you never really even talked about probes.
There weren't any. I think it's just like what happens when a man and a woman love each other very much, but they don't want a baby.
It's called brown fingering
Mm-hmm. Feels very good.
Yep.
For both parties.
for both parties.
Right.
Cause
Man because he has the prostate, and woman because
she has the satisfaction knowing that
she's taking care of her man.
She's taking care of her man. Amen.
Thank you guys for listening. If you have a question you would like to submit like Charlie, you can email us at accordingtoanidiot@gmail.com, and you can also tweet us at idiotsaccord. We also have an Instagram called According to an Idiot, and you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns at any of the above. We're also going to be switching to Podbean soon. We'll still be on SoundCloud for a little while, but if you'd like to, you can do stuff on Podbean with us and probe us, maybe. I don't know. You tell me.
Give us a like or a probe, however
Right.
you feel. Regardless, we're going to get a finger from you.
Right. If you have a good vibration you want to send out to the world, let us know, and we'll talk about it on our podcast for
Yeah.
a minute. And if
Wanna
I disagree,
give a-
then I will yell at you profusely.
Purposefully.
Purposefully.
Profusely.
Profusely.
Yeah, guys, so I hope you are all having a great holiday season. If you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever rest of you scum celebrate, you non-denominational perverts. Love you guys so much, you beautiful babies.
Bye.
Hasta la vista.